Hello, welcome to Falcons Central Radio Show on the Pro Football Central Radio Network. I'm Aaron Freeman, joined by my good friend Scott Karasik. This week we have Jessica Kleinschmidt joining us to talk about the Atlanta Falcons and their upcoming matchup against the Baltimore Ravens in Week 7 this week in the NFL. We'll also be talking a little bit about the Falcons' loss to the Chicago Bears, and we'll be answering your mailbag questions at the end of the show. But Jessica, we want to welcome you to the show. And it's nice to have you on the show this week because we'll get to talk about the Ravens, and that'll be a good football team to talk about on the show as opposed to the Atlanta Falcons, which haven't been very good these last couple of weeks.
Oh, don't be so hard on those guys.
That's what I'm here to do. If you didn't know our dynamic, Jessica, Scott's the positive one, I'm the negative one. So
At least you guys even each other out. It's a beautiful thing.
yeah.
Yeah, except I'm becoming more of the neutral one at this point with what I've been seeing on the team. I'm like, yeah, they can go 4-12 because they still got to play the Bucks and the Saints again.
Yeah. It's hopefully they'll win some games down the stretch, but it doesn't seem like things are setting up for them to get back into the win column anytime soon. But we'll talk about that, I guess, a little later. Scott, let's talk about a little bit about this Bears game. Let's get that out of the way. What positives did you see in that game?
The positive, his name was Anton Smith on offense, or it was Jonathan Massaquoi on defense. That's about it. I mean, Paul Soliai did a good job the first half taking on double teams, and we got to see some decent play from Rashid Hageman early on. He was penetrating a little bit. He blocked an extra point. And then after he played 18 snaps, they pulled him out. And then they did give Massaquoi more snaps, but they pulled him from Goodman, which makes no sense to me. I don't understand what this coaching staff is doing. I've said that probably every year for the past 6, though. So at this point, I'm done. Unless Mike Smith can somehow get the Falcons to the playoffs, he should be fired. He probably will be fired. The writing is on the wall in bright red graffiti. Mike Smith will be fired if the Falcons do not make the playoffs. So that's my thought there.
Okay. Well, it's hard to dispute that. Certainly the standards are pretty high here in Atlanta, and the expectation was last year was a one-year blip in the road, and that the Falcons would respond this year and get back into the playoff hunt. I think probably the one thing that can probably save his job if they basically run the table the last 4 or 5 games, and if they do that and get to like 7-9 or 8-8, then that might be able to save his job a little bit like Ron Rivera a couple of years ago in Carolina, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's asking a little too much of this team.
Yeah, it seems like that way right now. So, miracles do happen occasionally, once in a blue moon, I guess.
See, this is you being positive and me being negative. It feels weird.
Yeah. Well, let's switch it back a little bit. All right. You got any other thoughts on the Bears game, Scott? Before we talk a little bit more about these Ravens.
Just more of the same stuff that I've been complaining about for the past. I don't know. What is it, 6 months now? I thought that they were just joking in preseason about playing Jonathan Babineau as like a right defensive end in the 7 technique, but no, that's they haven't been playing. It is what it is. They're getting no pass rush out of that spot, and there's things they can do to remedy it and fix the defense and everything else, and they're just not doing it. And I'm disheartened, to say the least, to see yet another Mike Smith scheme defense instead of a true Mike Nolan defense where if they ran the damn defense right, it'd be fun to watch.
Okay.
I noticed you didn't have a what are the negatives column for Bears game review.
Too many.
Because there's way too many.
Yeah.
Drop passes and bleh.
Yeah, it's my attempt to try to keep this show from being an hour of us complaining about things. So, we'll just point out a couple of positives, Anton Smith and Massaquoi, and then I guess we can move on.
So it's not bitch about Mike Smith hour?
Yeah, I mean, we got, 10 more games to do that? So, let's just parse it out over the rest of the season.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, Jessica, your Ravens are 4-2.
So negative, my goodness. Ugh.
If you'd watched this team for the past 3 weeks, you'd feel the same way we do.
Yeah, well, this is a depressing show right now. We should pep it up a little bit. We need cheerleaders or alcohol or something.
Alcohol.
There's plenty of alcohol. There's just not many cheerleaders.
Well, we're going to bring in a little bit more positive, Jessica, because we're going to talk about a good football team in the Ravens. So, how are you feeling about your team?
I mean, they're not my team, but I'm pretty. It's like the most difficult thing. I think you guys can agree. Like a team that you're a fan of, it's hard to say like we are going to have a good game. It's like I don't play for the Ravens, but it's so difficult for me to not say we are going to have a good game. Like I'm not Bernard Pierce, I'm not Torrey Smith. I don't play for the Baltimore Ravens, but I mean, as of this week, they have a lot of confidence coming in to the week ahead. I mean, Joe Flacco had a day on Sunday. That guy was phenomenal. He was, I mean, I don't think the Buccaneers can walk after that game. Was it 48-17, the ending? And they actually did a franchise, I think a team record, most points scored during the first half of the game against those Bucs. And Flacco has all the confidence in the world heading into this game. And with him and the addition of Steve Smith, I have to say Smith Jr. because there's two Smiths that are catching Flacco's passes right now. But the team's impressing me. I'm very impressed with them, and I was a little nervous going into the season, especially because there's a lot of off-season drama that happened, and because Ray Rice, believe it or not, was not the only Baltimore Raven who was arrested coming into the season. There was multiple things happening in the off-season, but they took it. I mean, I guess they took it as well as they could, and Bernard Pierce stepped up to the plate. Justin Forsett absolutely stepped up to the plate. I hate using that because it's obviously a baseball analogy, but you guys know what I'm saying. Those guys are really impressing me, 4-2 right now, and against those 2-4 Falcons home at M&T Bank Stadium should be a pretty interesting game this week.
How's Zoe doing?
Pardon me?
How's Talaferio doing?
I mean, I think he's doing okay, but I mean, he was also one of the ones who was arrested in the off season. I don't know his statistics at this. Let's see, how is he doing? Let's see, running back wise. Well, I mean, the spotlight was on Forsett and as well as Bernard Pierce, but his rushing, what he's got, let's see. Well, he's got two touchdowns right now. 196 rushing at the moment. He's not Forsett right now. I'm kind of obsessed with Forsett. I was such a fangirl of Bernard Pierce heading into this season, fantasy-wise and fan-wise, but he kind of took a back seat once Forsett kind of came out of nowhere. Taliaferro obviously had to step up to the plate as well. There's those three guys. Ray Rice obviously is no longer in the spotlight, so it's kind of cool to have three newbies in that position that are actually doing some work. So it's good to see those guys stepping up to the plate and working really well with Flacco.
What happened to Bernard Pierce? Like I was high on him going into the season, given all the stuff that was going to happen with Ray Rice, and basically this would be his time to shine. But basically, he fumbled in that first game and then has barely seen the field after that.
Well, he was injured as well. He was week to week. He was on a week to week basis. Every time before a game, he was kind of like Eric Decker. It's like, dude, are you gonna play? Or are you not? I think he had it was a different injury, one after the other, and that's where Forsett kind of, came into the spotlight. But same scenario. I mean, but the beauty of Bernard Pierce is a couple of his statistics are better than Ray Rice's last year. I'm not saying that's a great thing. 2011, Ray Rice was absolutely phenomenal. That guy was ridiculous as far as the Ravens go. I was very high on Bernard Pierce too. He was my probably one of my top 5 sleeper running backs heading into this season, fantasy wise and player wise. But yeah, injuries, and I don't know if he was just not prepared at the beginning, Ray Rice was only supposed to be sitting for 2 games, so maybe he kind of lagged a little bit. I don't know what the scenario was. Same scenario. I was pumped for him going into this season, but it just didn't happen for him. And lo and behold, there's Lorenzo and Justin there to kind of save the day.
Yeah, do you think the Ravens' issues last year with running the ball was more the running back situation, or was it just the offensive line wasn't playing pretty well? And if it's improved, do you think it's because the offensive line has stepped up?
I mean, the offensive line is kind of had a really strong reputation, kind of compared to the Ravens' defense. It's kind of what the Ravens were known for. I think last year it was a combination of things. I mean, I think it's kind of a curse. It's difficult unless you're, of course, the Patriots coming back after a Super Bowl win. You have all this pressure on you, and so on and so forth. But I think it was a number of things. I mean, they lost Anquan Bolden, and I know I'm not the type of person to say like one guy doesn't carry the team, but Anquan Bolden could catch my passes, and I throw like a girl. Not really, I don't. But if I did, he would totally have my back. The guy's wingspan's ridiculous. So, I mean, losing Anquan Bolden was rough. And Ray Lewis, losing him too was hard. But as far as the offensive line goes, I mean, when you add that and, Bernard Pierce was still kind of young, it was really hard for him to, step up. And Ray Rice, Lord knows what happened to him. I don't know what was going on with him, but he wasn't what we were expecting to. You couldn't pay me enough to draft him to my fantasy team as opposed to a couple years ago. People were fighting over him in fantasy leagues. So I think it was a combination of things as far as the offense goes. But the offensive line is definitely strong, and protecting, their offense is easy, and they're really doing some awesome things over there in Baltimore. So I'm pretty impressed.
Speaking of the offensive line, you guys injured. Eugene Monroe was injured. Kelechi Osemele, I think I said that right. Also a little beat up. You had been forced to start James Hurst and John Urschel, 2 undrafted free agents, if I'm not mistaken. Do you feel confident in those guys? I know the Falcons pass rusher isn't exactly world beaters, but we saw a little bit from Jonathan Massaquoi last week, and I think Scott's probably agrees with me that we kind of hope that we see a little bit more from him, and maybe he can sort of exploit that matchup. So, what sort of confidence in that left side of that offensive line you have?
I mean, it's the same scenario. I mean, we were kind of the Baltimore Ravens were plagued with injuries, but what team wasn't? I'm a little curious, Scott. So actually, both of you, as far as the left side of the offense is concerned, if you feel it's a little bit weaker for the Baltimore Ravens, do you think the Falcons need to kind of attack that a little bit harder? I don't know what kind of...
Until the Falcons start actually showing some pass rush, I'm not really worried about other teams.
Yeah.
No, that's the standard Mike Nolan answer. Now, if the Falcons are smart, they'll attack Osemele and James Hurst as much as they can. I say run some Malachi Goodman and Jonathan Massaquoi and Jonathan Babineau all on that same side, blitzing linebackers, everything, and just attack them. But knowing the Falcons, they're going to put Jonathan Babineau out in a 7 technique defensive end and not do anything. And they're going to follow that up with putting Croy Bierman out there. And then they're going to follow that up with putting O.C. Miniori out there. And then everybody's going to go, man, the Falcons can't get a pass rush. Yeah, because they let Massaquoi rush the passer 8 times after he had his best game ever the week before. Because that's what the Falcons seem to do. Guy has his best game ever, they sit him.
Yeah, he's pretty much nailed it. So, I guess I was asking you, Jessica, just because I was hoping just maybe that Urschel and Hurst are so bad that maybe even Croy Bierman and O.C. Miniori could actually get some pressure on those guys. So we'll see.
No. Nah, Hurst has looked slightly better than outside of a really bad game against Indy. Well, to be fair, he did play Carolina without Greg Hardy. I don't know. Hurst might be worth it to send Massaquoi at if Mike Nolan will actually do it. But,
Yeah.
this is Mike Nolan we're talking about.
Yeah. So if the Falcons should do something, they won't do something. So probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah. All right, Jesse, I got to ask you this question. This
Mhm.
is the one time every 4 years this question comes up. Joe Flacco or Matt Ryan? Who's better?
How dare you? Okay, so let me just tell you. A couple weeks ago, I had to do a lineup for basically my lineup who I think is going to do the best in a week. I think it was a couple weeks ago for, I don't know, right, for so many websites. One website. I really wanted Matt Ryan to go for it. No, I mean, it's kind of a weird thing. Like, Flacco's kind of awkward, but Matt Ryan's kind of awkward too, but they kind of get the job done. How dare you? This is a tough question. Should I just say Joe Flacco so I don't get in trouble?
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want.
Yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of Joe Flacco. I think I'm pretty bummed as far as quarterbacks go. Ravens have rarely been blessed with an awesome quarterback. That message was for you, Trent Dilfer. But at the same time, I mean, I've always kind of liked Matt Ryan. I mean, I feel like he's got more confidence in the pocket. I feel like Flacco gets lucky more as opposed to Matt Ryan, who is more poised and less awkward, if you will, in the pocket. So if I had to choose, if like I just went off and said it and pretend I wasn't a Ravens fan, probably Matt Ryan. But since I was born in Baltimore, and if my mother ever listens to this or she's watching this, definitely Joe Flacco. So I'm not going to answer that kind of sort of ish. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you took A and B, so I guess.
So we're going to go with C, all of the above.
Yeah. So do you feel a little bit better about Joe Flacco after his big game last week, or is it just kind of?
I feel great about it. I feel like he feels better about himself. I mean, it reminds me of that one interview he had a couple years ago where he was basically saying he's like the best quarterback in the league, which I feel like you have to kind of have that mentality to be a quarterback in the NFL. The amount of confidence he must have going into this game has to be through the roof. I mean, Falcons are 2-4. It's a home game. After that game, Steve Smith is hot right now. Torrey Smith is finally hot, and the sky's the limit when it comes to this game. But, I mean, at the same time, like you guys are saying, miracles do happen. It could be a total blowout, and the Ravens may lose. But I just don't see that happening. There's a 69% chance of the Ravens taking this one. So.
Okay. Yeah, you couldn't even say that with a straight face. So. Yeah.
I don't. I'm just trying to like have fun with it. You guys were so sad leading up to me. It was like, oh, you guys introduced me, and everybody was this thing. The way that you guys talk about the Falcons. Come on, you guys have 2 wins. That's saying something. Could be worse.
Yeah, but they're against the Saints and the Buccaneers.
You know what? With that attitude, they're not gonna. I mean, if they heard what you guys were saying about their team right now, I
would hope they would take it to heart and realize, you know what? Maybe we should get our heads out of our rectums and actually get to work and win some games.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how. Sorry, I'm very bitter right now, which I shouldn't be because I'm the positive one.
He is. That's why I'm not saying anything because
Well,
I wish
sports are a beautiful thing. You could lose to the worst team in any sport and then beat the number 1 seed when it matters the most. So you never really know.
It's true. It's true. I mean, the Falcons have a chance at winning the game. Basically, the Ravens have to play probably the worst game they've played all season, and the Falcons have to play the best game they played all season. So, but
I mean, the statistics. If you really look at the statistic when you analyze both of the teams, offensively and defensively, it's kind of interesting. They're neck and neck with some statistics, but unfortunately, they're in the Ravens' favor for the most part. But it's pretty interesting for both teams. They're averaging 27.3 points per game, which is interesting. Both the exact same number, same decimal and everything. And the Falcons, I mean, I think it's going to be down to the defense because there's some pretty awful things going on with your defense as far as the statistics go with the amount of rushing yards you guys allow and the amount of touchdowns you guys are allowing. But I think it's going to go down to the defense as far as this particular game goes. And you add that with Joe Flacco's confidence and and the way that Steve Smith's been playing. Steve Smith walks around like he's pissed off at everybody, and he probably is. I mean, he's got a huge grudge on his shoulder, but even before the whole Carolina Panthers thing happened, he was a mad guy all the time. But he's even more pissed off this year. So my advice is don't get in his way. That's great advice for the Falcons.
As Atlanta Falcons fans, we're used to Steve Smith having a season-best game against the Atlanta Falcons. The fact that he only plays against the Atlanta Falcons once over the next 4 years and then will probably retire is like music to our ears. It's like, man, all right.
Well, look at the game against Carolina. Oh my gosh, I wouldn't want to be around Steve Smith around that time. My goodness, walking into the game. We were seeing career games twice a year for the past, what is it? He's been playing in Carolina since what, 2002? I think 2001.
So like a dozen years, we've been seeing him just go off and make the Falcons his woman. And now in week 7 of 2014, it's the last time.
What does it mean to make someone your woman?
Ever have to see him again?
What does it mean to make someone your woman, Scott?
Sorry, the dominance thing. My apologies.
All right. That was your first strike.
It's okay. I get 3 of them.
You do, unless of course, you foul tip. But I doubt you're gonna foul tip in this game.
I was a leadoff hitter. It's okay.
Yeah. Well.
Okay.
Steve Smith makes the Falcons his woman. Don't ever use that again. It's like I'm not offended by it, but it just sounds stupid.
Well, yeah, it does.
It's a little stupid.
I'm trying to not cuss on here as much because Brian kind of was like, dude, you can't say the F word. Like, but that's how we're...
vocabulary, right? I have nothing to say now. Nothing. I have nothing to say now.
About what?
Yeah, we know about Steve Smith. He's
Steve Smith just destroys Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's like he's a little kid who's bullying another kid and trying to steal their Lego set. He just kicks it all over the place. And the Lego set's the Falcons' defense.
The good thing is, though, Desmond Trufant did a pretty good job against him last year. But I'm afraid that this year we'll have to put Robert Alford on that side against him. So, and, Alford, I think, can cover him, but he hasn't been having the best games these last 2 weeks. So we'll see which Robert Alford. The good one, he can shut down Steve Smith. The bad one, probably not. So we'll see. Another Smith. Let's talk about Smith Jr. Torrey Smith suddenly decided to show up. Is that because they were playing the horrible Buccaneers, or is that because he's suddenly going to be...
I love Torrey Smith to read his pieces. Both my parents went to Maryland. And Torrey Smith, he's just like a down-to-earth guy. The moment they took his dreads away, I think they took his game away, too. Because it's like, that guy, I mean, obviously him and Anquan Bolden were the wide receivers a couple years ago. And I don't know. But I think that's what happened. It's like, oh, hey, Torrey Smith's here. I mean, if you look at his yardage, I think he has 200 and something receiving yards right now, and we're already heading into week 7. That's not Torrey Smith numbers. I think he's got 2 touchdowns right now. What's that?
Hasn't he been injured though?
There's no excuses. Sorry.
I mean, it could also be the whole Joe Flacco thing. Not saying Joe Flacco did anything wrong.
It's the braids. It's the dreadlocks.
Well, here's the way I look at it. It's like when Julio Jones was getting worked into the offense with Roddy White. All right? You got this young, really talented player, but you got the veteran who you're trusting. So that first season, the numbers aren't going to be great. Like, Torrey Smith's probably going to see a small decline. Steve Smith's going to be Steve Smith. But as you get along, the dynamic's going to flip. And once Steve Smith finally somehow, when he's 44, loses all his speed, that's when Torrey Smith will finally be way ahead of him. Although I compare Torrey Smith to Roddy White, I have since the minute he came out of the draft, because that's the kind of receiver he's always looked like, that just physical, reliable target that you have in your offense. And Roddy White hasn't even been Roddy White this year.
Right.
Yeah, I saw the Torrey Smith Roddy White comp to Scott when he came out. Said that Torrey's probably a step faster than Roddy was when he came out of UAB, but that's splitting hairs.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I do comparisons, I always do 90%.
Yeah.
Like, this player is 90% of this guy, or he's 110% of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Dak Prescott, he's 110% of Tim Tebow, or he's 90% of, like, a Russell Wilson.
Okay.
Because he doesn't have the intelligence that Russell Wilson has on the field.
Russell Wilson's a precious baby angel. No, I really think that he's an angel in heaven, and he takes time off to do that to be a quarterback in the NFL.
Okay.
But can we talk about Torrey Smith's numbers for one second? It's kind of awkward. 227 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Kind of weird.
Yeah,
right
but he's on pace for a career low in targets, too.
Yeah.
What's that?
He's on pace for a career low in targets.
Yeah. I hate the thing like on pace. Everybody's on pace for all kinds of crap, and I hate that. But you're right. I'm sorry. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
I mean, that's like a legitimate pace, though. Also,
like you're on pace for whatever. Like if my first NFL game, if I score the very first touchdown of everything, it's like, oh, she's on pace for 1 trillion touchdowns by the end of the season. Blah, blah, blah. I hate that. It's my biggest pet peeve. Everybody's on pace for everything.
Okay.
But I think I just proved why I have no friends. Continue. What's the next question?
I got a question. What's going on with Ravens secondary? Matt Elam, Darian Stewart not playing particularly well. Ladarius Webb seems to have fallen off the face of the earth. What's going on with that?
Well, why do you like Ladarius Webb so much?
I thought he was like the best slot corner in the league like 2 years ago before he got hurt. And then since then, he's either been hurt or not playing well.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it's the game of football. You're going to get injured. And second of all, I don't know why you guys are bashing on the Ravens so much when you're putting all your hate towards the Ravens.
Where are we hating the Ravens? I
feel like you're bashing on my secondary, and the secondary did nothing wrong to you, Aaron. I'm just saying.
I'm just curious where your thoughts are on the secondary, because I feel like
they've been relatively quiet, but at the same time, going into this season, our secondary kind of is a little more secondary than we anticipated. We were expecting certain players to be there, and we got the injury, and I felt like the second week came around and injuries were just nuts. I mean, Dennis Pitt is out. That's crazy. The same injury he had last season, and I had the exact same reaction when he went down, for the exact same injury. I think I said that twice. But, same thing. Injury plagues, and he's been kind of like coasting. He's only been in Webb's only been in 1 game this season. You're right. He's been kind of doing whatever, but yeah, I don't know, honestly.
What's been going on with Matt Elam? Because I thought he was going to be way better by now, but he just looks like the same guy that he was when he got drafted. Not very good at deep coverage. Doesn't do well one-on-one with tight ends or with wide receivers. I mean, kind of tough.
Yeah, I look at the Ravens team and I see one weakness, and I think it's that secondary. That's the one thing that the Falcons possibly could exploit, but they kind of need more than one receiver by the name of Julio Jones to step up and help exploit that. But
that being said, that pass rush, that Suggs, Doomerville, McPhee, hell, even Mosley is getting in on the action. That pass rush scares the living crap out of me.
Yes, and our offensive line isn't playing particularly well, so it's not a good combination.
I mean, the fact that they're even getting quality snaps out of Christo Biluki is saying a lot.
Congratulations, you said his name. I had no idea how to say it. It just sounded like gibberish.
I know, it's one of those awkward things you wait for somebody to say it, and you're like, oh, okay, that's how you pronounce it.
Just like
I just sounded out the syllables. Plus, he went to Georgia State, so.
Okay.
We've got the random friends on Facebook that I can ask that are mutual friends. Oh, hey, you knew this guy.
How do you say his name? I have no idea.
Well, the first name's easy, Christo.
Yeah.
And then you realize it's probably Greek, so I feel like an idiot now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, whatever. Yeah, that pass rush, that Ravens pass rush scares the crap out of me. Doomerville versus Karimi, Suggs versus Jake Matthews with a bad ankle.
Well, Suggs is finally coming back too. His little.
Yeah.
After being Defensive Player of the Year, he just kind of like said, "Screw it," and then that really bad Achilles injury and stuff was pretty gnarly too. And then he's finally back, making his impression known once again. Why he was once upon a long time ago Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, and C.J. Mosley's probably one of the front runners for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the reason why Arthur Brown is sitting and hasn't even been active all year.
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens just need to give Atlanta Arthur Brown. You're not using him.
Okay, I'll just make some calls, okay? I'll take care of it.
Maybe Atlanta would run a front seven instead of a front six if they had a linebacker like Arthur Brown to play weak side linebacker.
Well, who are we going to get for him then?
Well, I mean, it seems like you guys need some cornerbacks. And there's a couple guys just kind of sitting around doing nothing in Atlanta. I mean, you could probably have, like, Josh Wilson, and he'd be an upgrade. You know?
Take Javier Arenas.
Yeah, Javier Arenas hasn't even been active all year. I'm sure Ricardo Allen would love to be on the active roster.
Yeah. You guys already got one ex-Falcon cornerback in Dominique Franks, so I'm sure we can give you someone who's better than him. So that'll be an upgrade.
Yeah, me, and I'll make it happen.
All right. Just call Ozzy. And,
just let me know. I'll let Ozzy know. Like, Ozzy, just chill, but I have, talk to you real quick.
Okay.
A simple little text, and it's done. No big deal.
All right. We'll make that happen.
With an emoji at the end, because he likes his emojis.
Oh, man. All right, Aaron, is it about that time for the Falcons mailbag questions?
Yeah, it's about that time. We don't have many this week, though.
We don't have many this week, but we got enough to where we've got something to talk about.
Okay, we'll do that.
And we even got a comment on the link page, so I'll go ahead and answer that one real quick.
Okay.
This guy, Sean Jankowski, is asking whether Devin Hester has had any impact on offense for the Falcons this year. When the Falcons have had a healthy offensive line...
An emoji at the end, because he likes his emojis.
Oh, all right, Aaron, is it about that time for the Falcons mailbag questions?
Yeah, it's about that time. We don't have many this week.
Why are we looping, Jessica? We don't have many this week, but we got enough to where...
Sorry.
It's like, what is going on?
I wanted to hear myself talk, and I'm annoying. I sound so annoying. Okay. Sorry, what?
All right.
It's okay. You're a girl. It happens.
Oh, you're so observant over there. Look at you.
I've got 3 older sisters. They drove me crazy growing up. Anyway, Andrew Schuweiler says, I'm not saying that the season is over, but as it looks, the Falcons have hit a rut, may get another high draft pick, and what's your guys' realistic top 10 draft board for the Falcons?
Andrew asked us a draft question last week, so obviously he's given up on the season. I haven't really done a whole lot of draft homework yet. I figure I probably have to start this now because the Falcons do look like they could possibly end up with a high pick. My top 10 draft board is 1 through 10 pass rusher. So I hear this Randy Gregory guy from Nebraska is real good, so I might have to check him out.
Shane Wright from Missouri is pretty damn good.
And if we're gonna stick with the 3-4, who's the guy from USC, the Williams kid, right?
Guy's realistic, but you've got You've already got Rashid Hageman. You've got. I feel like Leonard Williams is what we're gonna want. Is basically his potential and Rashid Hageman's potential are the same. You might as well just play Hageman.
Okay.
That's my thought there.
All right. But yeah, I've heard the Gregory guy from Nebraska is being compared to Deion Jordan, and that's a good thing, even though Deion Jordan hasn't exactly lit up the world. But if he's as athletic as Deion Jordan is, then that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Although I wish we could just kidnap Elvis Dumervil because I don't know why he's not a Falcon. I don't know why the Falcons didn't sign him before last season. Would have made sense, you know. Dumervil and OC would have made much more sense than, I don't know.
You can't just say you're going to kidnap the Baltimore Ravens without me not saying anything. You can't just kidnap football players.
That's true. They probably wouldn't fit in the bag.
I would say I would love to see you try to kidnap Dumervil and see what would happen.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen because
No.
I wouldn't be the actual one kidnapping. It'd be
Yeah,
more
the
like
Falcons have a better chance of winning the Ravens game than you kidnapping Dumervil. Or maybe not. I think you have a better chance of kidnapping Dumervil. I don't know.
Well, it'd be more like a mafia type thing. I'd send like 4 really big dudes to go after him and get him.
Would you make Dumervil your woman?
Huh?
Would you make Dumervil your woman?
No.
Oh, well, I don't know. I'm trying to make that.
Say, hey,
I'm
you,
trying to make that.
Go out there and do what Mike Nolan wants you to do.
But it's not going to work. It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, we could have got Dumervil. We got OC, though. We had the option of keeping John Abraham, signing Dwight Freeney, signing Elvis Dumervil, or signing OC Umenyiora. And guess what? We got OC, so.
We could have gotten some Reese's Cups, but instead we went out and bought some Heath bars. That's what that sounded like to me. Heath bars are disgusting.
I don't even know what they are, so yeah, sure.
It's the chocolate and toffee and yeah. Let's put it this way, my mom loves them.
Okay.
My grandmother loved them. My dad likes them. They're old people like candy.
Okay. Scott, you got anything on the top 10 draft board before we go to the next question?
The only other thing I can think of is a tight end, but there's no one out there that's a tight end. I say pray to God Jordan Cameron is a free agent and just throw money in his direction. Just take all the cash and give it to Cameron because he needs some. And he probably would rather play in Atlanta than Cleveland because, yeah.
But Johnny Football.
If you had a choice between playing with Matt Ryan or Johnny Manziel, who would you pick?
Playing football, I'd pick Matt Ryan. But if I just want to hang out and party.
Oh, yeah. If we were to go out and get strippers, you go with Johnny Manziel.
Well, that's true because Matt Ryan's boring.
Yeah.
Like, straight up boring.
Isn't he happily married, too? I do believe so.
Probably.
That's why he's boring.
I think his wife's like a former basketball player or volleyball player because she's like 6'1".
Yeah, they've been together since college.
But she's really tall.
All right, Scott. Last question. Dustin Smith at DSizzle78 asks, is there any chance that Smitty gets fired and TD doesn't, or vice versa? Or if one goes, do both go?
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. I mean, if Smitty starts playing Thomas Dimitrov's late-round draft picks, they might not either get fired. But until, Smitty actually gives some of these guys playing time, they're both probably getting fired. Specifically at pass rusher. People complain that Dimitrov didn't go out and get pass rushers, didn't go out and, invest all these resources in it. He went and got Ray Edwards, and Ray Edwards flamed out. He let go of Abraham because Abraham had a multitude of injuries. And there were, how he had those concussion screenings in Arizona? I have a feeling that something similar was going on in Atlanta this year, or the year that they let him go, which is probably why they let him go. So Yeah, Atlanta doesn't have a premier pass rusher because they're not developing one. When you've got 5th round, 6th round, 7th round picks and you're not letting them out on the field and, saying, hey, go out there, attack the quarterback, see what you can do. Oh, well, you screwed up this time. This is how you do it next time. Develop these young guys. Develop Malachi Goodman. Develop Rashid Hageman. Develop Corey Peters. Let him out. Let him play. Stop putting him as a one technique so he can eat a double team just so you can have Jonathan Babineau look good. No offense to Babineau, but Aaron, you and I both know he's being completely misused and playing way too many snaps right now.
Yeah.
He needs to play like 35% of the snaps as a 3 technique, and that's it.
Yeah. I would say, to answer Dustin's question, I think there's a much better chance that Dimitrov sticks around than Smith does at this point. Obviously, if the Falcons can put together a nice win streak to finish the season, get close to 500, potentially 500, I don't think they'll get above 8-8, but if they can get back, I think Smitty might be able to keep his job. But I do think, unless this season flames out completely and it's like a 2-14 or 3-13, I think there's a good chance Dimitrov will stick around. I think a lot of that is because, the forgotten man in the Falcons hierarchy is Rich McKay. And I think Arthur Blank trusts Rich McKay. That's why he's kept him around this long. And I think Rich McKay is going to tell Arthur Blank, because Rich McKay is a former GM, to basically show some favor to his current GM. And Dimitrov will probably get probably another year at least. And he might not have as much control or how much say over who the next coach is, as Arthur Blank probably is going to insert himself into that situation and sort of, pick his guy. But I do think Dimitrov, there's a pretty good chance that he'll stick around.
I mean, I do have a feeling that Dimitrov is going to stick around, mainly because I don't think that there's a way. I don't know who you hire instead of Dimitrov, is my point. Like, are you going to just give Lionel Vital the reins? Are you just going to hand him all the reins there? I wouldn't. So.
Yeah, I think probably the scenario where Dimitrov gets fired is if Arthur Blank goes after some big name coach that's basically going to be able to come in and handpick his GM. And I think that's a possibility. I don't think it's a likelihood. I think probably the biggest name he'll get is maybe Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, Jim, not John. But we'll see how that goes. I don't know. I'm sure we got plenty, 2 more months to talk about who's going to be fired and who's not. So
we do. Also, I normally don't do this, but I am going to plug an article. I just wrote one about how the Falcons can fix the defense. It's 6,600 words of me just.
Oh my gosh.
Complaining.
Right, the Iliad? Odyssey?
It's pretty close to it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Jessica, where can people find you? Plug whatever you want to plug.
I'm not going to plug in any specific article because you should be reading every single one of mine. They probably all total 6,600 combined, but they're not. It's not 60. That's crazy. Scott, you crazy. You crazy. But you can find me on twitter.com @KleinschmidtJD. I write for so many websites right now. I don't think I have time to list them all, but I'm pretty easy to track down. Just Google me, and my name is not as complicated as it sounds. It's just Klein and Schmidt put together. I'm everywhere.
Okay. Well, that's this week's show. We'll be back next week to talk about the Falcons-Ravens game. Hopefully we'll have something positive to talk about. And we'll preview the London game and against the Detroit Lions, and we'll be answering your mailbag questions. You can find Scott on Twitter @ScottKarasik. He's writing for the Bleacher Report. I'm on Twitter @FalcFans. I'm writing for FalcFans.com. Thank you, Jessica, for joining us on the show this week.
Thank you guys so much for having me.